Hello and welcome to another episode of Unmuted. I'm your host, Courtland Warren. Today we explore the idea or the concept around agreement, and more specifically, keeping your word to yourself and to other people. But primarily, we're going to look at what happens when we consistently build a relationship with ourselves whereby we keep our word to ourselves in order to build on our personal integrity. I've known, and you may likely relate to this, how individuals, myself included, will bend over backwards to keep my word to someone else, to show up when I said I would, or to do the thing that I said I would do. But I've been finding it all the more difficult and sometimes quite challenging to have that same level of relationship with myself, where I have the same level of importance and significance on agreements that I make to myself personally, in secret, in quiet, just in my head, where I promise myself that I would do a thing. And I notice how often it would be easier for me to just let myself off the hook, to just let myself go. I started to explore, why would that be? Why is it that when giving my word to someone else, or when you give your word to someone else, it has a higher level of importance or significance than when you give your word to yourself? And what might be possible if you changed that relationship? Ultimately, when I say, well, okay, I'll do what it takes to keep my word to someone else, but I break my word with myself, ultimately what I'm really communicating to my subconscious is that someone else is more important or more significant to me than I am to myself. And so what would be possible if you were able to build a relationship with yourself such that when you gave your word to yourself, when you told yourself you were going to do it, you did it, even if it was no longer convenient, even if it wasn't comfortable, even if you had to stretch yourself? What would be possible as a result? Let's explore that in this episode. So the word agree means to have like a shared or matching opinion, a belief or understanding. Okay, so that's particularly when it's with someone else, like you and another person. You have a shared or common belief, a viewpoint, or understanding, whether that's cheering for your favorite, football team, or in your politics, or how the world ought be or should work. When there's agreement, there is a shared understanding. Like when two or more people agree, they are in harmony or alignment on that particular subject or matter. It implies that there's a consensus or some mutual understanding. Agreement can also be expressed through like verbal or like your written communication. So we get it, right? We understand what agreement is, and sometimes it might be paperwork or documentation, a contract, where okay, this represents that we are in consensus. This represents that we're on the same page. We have this mutual understanding, this mutual trust that now exists between two people. But what is it then? And so when you give your word to someone else, it's a form of agreement. You give your word to them, you say you're going to do it, then that is an agreement that you have formed with them, and there is the expectation that you'll follow through and they will also. But how does this definition then apply when it's an individual, which is really what I want to explore? Like, we understand, we get what it is to have agreement with someone else, but what is it to have agreement with yourself, and how are we able to grow in confidence using the compound effect when the agreement is with you solely? Okay, so when applied to an individual, the concept of agreement can be understood in a slightly different way, right? Like in this context, agreement refers to a state of internal alignment or harmony with oneself. Okay, so now it's, are you in alignment internally? It means that an individual's thoughts, beliefs, their values, and actions are all in congruence or in agreement with each other. So it's like the word integrity. The word integrity comes from the math term integer, and an integer is what type of number? Right? It's a whole number. So being in integrity is about being whole. consider the number of times when you've said yes to something that you really wanted to say no to. Has that ever happened to you where you said yes, but you really wanted to say no? Someone asked you, to do a favor and you agreed. And as soon as you agree, you start kicking yourself that you agreed because you really wanted to say no. Or perhaps you've had those times in your life when you said no, but you really wanted to say yes. So, can I support you? Is there anything that you need? No, I got it. I'll do it on my own, and so forth. So a person says, well, you're not in integrity, or you're out of integrity. Well, for me to say that a person is out of integrity would require that I know a bit more about them, right? Because when an individual is in integrity or out of integrity, what that speaks to is my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, my actions, all align. Okay, there's an alignment with what I say, what I think, what I feel, and also what I believe. So agreement with oneself then is an internal alignment or harmony. Okay, it means that an individual's thoughts, beliefs, values, and actions are congruent, and they are all like in alignment with each other. So ultimately, when a person says, well, a person who's in agreement with themselves, it means that they have a sense of like coherence and consistency in their thoughts, their decisions, and their actions. What you're really looking for, right, is consistency. So greatness and high achievement doesn't occur because an individual does it one time, but it's over time, continuing to answer the call, continuing to answer the bell, and delivering at a high level, delivering high quality product and service every single time. Like you can count on it to be great. Okay. So when you are in agreement, then you have a clear understanding of your own value, your goals, your priorities, and you make choices that are in alignment with those beliefs. There is a sense of internal or inner agreement and integrity with yourself. Now that requires then what? Okay, you got to be clear then on what your goals are and what your priorities are. And then you make decisions that are in alignment with those things being achieved. Otherwise, you get distracted and distractions start to appear. The University of California at Irvine produced some research that said that once distracted, it takes 23 minutes to get back on task. So you got to ask yourself if you can really afford the distractions of notifications and random phone calls and just drop in meetings and so forth, because it requires 23 minutes just to get back on task. So in order for you to be in agreement, the undercurrent here is that you understand and know what it is that you want and what you're striving towards. Ultimately, personal agreement then involves finding a sense of internal alignment and coherence that is congruent with you, and it's about being true to yourself and living in accordance with your principles and values. So when you are in agreement with yourself, you are congruent with your principles and values, and you have to be steadfast in that. And this is one that I can relate to, particularly with recent events, because when you do this, there will be those who are used to you being a different way. Perhaps they were used to being able to knock you off, get you distracted. Perhaps they could count on you as being one that would, gossip with them or do nothing, waste days. And then all of a sudden you start to turn, you start to shift, you start to make yourself more accountable to yourself. And this can cause some level of discomfort for people in your life who are accustomed to you being and showing up in a particular way. You have to be, you want to be steadfast and solid, congruent to your principles and values in order to maintain the shift and change that you desire to have occur. And so the power of self-agreement and then the compound effect as a framework for growing your confidence works a bit like this. First and foremost, here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine a life where you radiate confidence, where you believe in yourself wholeheartedly, and every action you take leads to greater success and fulfillment. Imagine a life like that, where every action you take leads to greater success and fulfillment. Okay, so this framework I'm going to share with you then will explore how to develop self-agreement and combine that with the compound effect, and how together this can transform your confidence and propel you towards your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations. So first, we got to understand that self-agreement is that, again, as I said, it's the state of internal alignment and harmony with oneself. Okay, developing then self-agreement starts with levels of self-awareness, gaining clarity about your values, your goals, and your priorities. And if you find yourself going into a place of confusion around, well, I don't know what I want, I'm not sure, so many things, so many options, you got to just decide. You got to get clear. Why? Because there is a benefit to being confused, right? The longer you are confused, then you're not responsible for taking on any new action. So this recognizes that it is required of you to get clear about what it is that you want. You have to do that in order to ever get to the place of congruency, harmony, and internal integrity. It's required of you to know what it is that you want. Developing that self-agreement, okay, starts with like reflection and self-awareness and picking some things that matter to you, choosing what matters to you. This idea of being on search of my purpose is BS. Okay, it really is. Like the idea of being on a search for your purpose sells a lot of personal development books, but it doesn't transform life. Ultimately, what you do is you choose what your purpose is going to be. You pick a place to serve. You pick a place to contribute. And, it's not about waiting for some esoteric being to grant you a purpose or a path. You pick one. Otherwise, you're wasting a whole lot of time. Okay. So we got to first be self-aware enough to understand the power of self-agreement, the compound effect, and how this relates to you being clear about what you want, what your goals, dreams, and aspirations are. Then it is about recognizing that the compound effect, okay, I've mentioned this a couple of times, so let's talk about it just briefly, but the compound effect is like a simple principle that small, consistent actions, when compounded over time, lead to significant results. I heard someone say one time that one of the reasons why more people don't achieve greatly is because they cannot do a simple thing for a long enough period of time to see the results. Right. So what happens is that small action of going to the gym, that small action of, connecting with your children daily, that small action of speaking a word of encouragement or life to your partner relationship daily, right? What happens is it builds over time. But if I'm a person who's addicted to immediate gratification, I may not see the results soon enough, or you may not see the results soon enough. And because I don't see those results soon enough, then quit. And we quit and give up too soon, or before we can actually see the results. Well, the compound effect recognizes that those small tasks done consistently, those small steps taken towards the goal, done consistently and over time, builds confidence. And as a result of that, you can achieve remarkable growth. So let's say like engaging in daily affirmations or practicing positive self-talk and challenging yourself regularly over small actions. These things compound and they start to boost your confidence, but you have to do it long enough to see the result. Give yourself, it takes more than 21 days, but we're talking about transforming a life. Give yourself 30, 60, 90. I've been really working at transforming my body naturally. And I'm seeing some results. I've spoken to the gentleman who had actually inspired it. And funny story. So, this guy, I meet him, like we had been knowing each other for like 6 hours, literally 6 hours. And so I'm talking to him, and then, we connected, we met, and then a couple of days later, I followed up with him, and he had been like on my Facebook page, and he says to me, he says, man, you can really wear a suit. You can really, I mean, you really do. You look good in your suit, but sometimes I notice that your stomach is trying to be the lead singer. Can you believe that? I'm like, and this was in a text message. I'm like, dude, I've known you all of 6 hours, and you're already telling me that my gut is budging over my belt line. And he's like, well, I mean, I'm just saying, it's kind of like, if you're not seeing the movie The Five Heartbeats, this won't make a whole lot of sense. But he was like, he said, yeah, sometimes your stomach is fighting to be the lead singer, like Eddie Kane in The Five Heartbeats. And then he actually texts, nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall. Okay, now if you've never seen that movie, it will not make sense. But for those of you who have seen that movie, you're probably like cracking up wherever you're listening to this right now. And I'm like, how in the hell do I meet a person and in 6 hours they're telling me, but here's the thing, I was already conscious about it, not that I shared it with him. So that became some motivation for me. Now I just went off on a tangent, but now I'm back. Okay, so he inspired it. So I've been, in the gym, I've been working out a bit, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing some things, and here's my target. And I was thinking like October. And he said, like, he was talking about his own transformation. He says, well, I'm just really thinking about, man, where I'm going to be next year. And I'm like, wow, wait a minute. Okay. I'm thinking about where I'll be in the next 30 days. I hadn't even considered where I'll be a year from now. And so all of a sudden, I started to not move my target, but I started to like have a sense of greater inspiration, because I'm like, okay, this is not just something I'm going to do for a short time, right? I'm going to extend this out even more. That's and so when we start to see those results being built over time, what we're really talking about there is the compound effect, okay? So a framework for growing your confidence would look like step one, self-reflection and goal setting. Okay, so take some time to identify your strengths, your values, and areas where you want to grow. And then set SMART goals. So establish specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-sensitive goals that align with your values and with your aspirations. Now, it's likely that you've heard that before and you continue to hear it. Why? Because it works, it matters, it's significant. So step one is self-reflection and goal setting. Step two is commitment to self-agreement. Make a dedicated commitment to align your thoughts, your beliefs, your values, and your actions all with the goal. So it matters to have the goal, right? So you got to do that part first, have the goal, that matters. And then once you have the goal, you want to dedicate yourself to making sure that you align, make sure that you align your thoughts, your beliefs, and your values and the actions that you take to those goals. If you won't do that, then you're going to find yourself distracted by people or things who are more clear on what they wanted than you are. Then number three, so first is self-reflection. Two, a commitment to self-agreement. Step three, consistent action, which also incorporates there again the compound effect. So take small, consistent steps towards building confidence, such as, practicing self-care, working out. You're going to write a page for your new book every single day. Think about it. If you wrote one page a day, you'd have a 365-page book by the end of the year. And so it could be working out, it could be building your relationship. But remember that each small action builds upon the previous. So that's the power of the compound effect. It's not that action is in isolation. That action builds on the previous action. That's how you've gotten to the habits that you're in currently. Step four, celebrate progress and reflect on what you've accomplished and what you've achieved. Now, I am one who is adamant about how important it is that you acknowledge and celebrate your wins along the way. Acknowledgement of your achievements is very important in the success cycle. There's no question about it. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're celebrating your progress and acknowledging the steps that you take. So regularly reflect on your progress, celebrate those achievements, and learn from the adjustments, or learn from the challenges. So, as you reflect on it, you look at what's working, what's not, what produces speed, what does not. And based on your reflections, you can adjust your goals and actions as needed so that you continue to grow in your confidence. So it's not just done in isolation. It's not just one thing. Over the years, so many people have asked, well, what's the one key to successful living? There isn't one key, okay? It is a collage of things. It is an emergence more than it is just one thing, okay? So we recap then that framework just real quick and recognize that by developing self-agreement and leveraging the compound effect, you can cultivate an unwavering confidence and achieve remarkable personal growth. This is what works. And I encourage you to take action on this. Like, start implementing this framework today and witness the transformative power it has on your confidence and your overall well-being. Remember that confidence is not a destination. It is more like a lifelong journey. So embrace it, nurture it, and watch yourself flourish as a result of being in the practice of it. It requires, again, some self-reflection. It requires commitment to self-agreement. It requires consistent action built over time, thus producing the compound effect, and also you celebrating your progress and making adjustments as necessary. I want you to develop the type of relationship with yourself, which is essentially what confidence is. It's what self-esteem is, where you develop the type of relationship with yourself that when you give your word to yourself, you can count it as done. I want you to have the same relationship with yourself in your word as you do with other people when you give your word to them. And that nature of you that will bend over backwards to do what's necessary to keep your word to them, that's the feeling that I want you to have when you promise yourself that you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and get to the gym, or when you're going to work 3 hours on your business today, or when you're going to make 10 new connections or appointments. I want you to have that same relationship with yourself. And even though it's invisible to everyone else, it's known to you, and it affects your alignment and your congruence. Okay, so I hope that helps. And if it does, don't keep this a secret. Let someone know that all of this exists. I promise to share only when I believe it will be of value and service to you. And so leave us a comment, subscribe to the page. If you're not a part of our email list, I ask that you send an email to info@courtlandwarren.com, info@courtlandwarren.com. You can go to courtlandwarren.com and download the free ebook, and that'll get you on our mailing list as well. Would love to have that contact information directly from you rather than having to depend on platforms because algorithms change and so forth. And now, I may or may not be able to get to you regularly. Okay. So with that, I am appreciative of you. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time for another episode of Unmuted, a podcast for you to find your voice so that you can live an impactful life. Thanks a lot.